With early voting already underway in much of Illinois, people going to the polls are weighing in on three hot-button issues through non-binding referenda at the bottom of the ballot. One question asks voters if the state's highest earners should pay more in taxes to help lower the property tax burden statewide. Approval won't do anything to change the current tax system, but advocates say a yes vote will help send a message to lawmakers in Springfield. Now, they'd have to approve another constitutional amendment for the 2026 ballot. Officials say if it did eventually become law, the 3% tax could create around $4.5 billion in annual revenue. Former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn joins me this morning in our WGN studios. Governor, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Paul.
I know this is an important project for you, but it is an advisory referendum, so it doesn't have teeth to it, so to speak. I know it's been successful in some other states like Massachusetts, but why did you fight to get this question on the ballot when it's not mandatory?
Well, number one, it is a referendum of the people. It's at the ballot box, and that's the best poll of all, where voters vote their conscience on an important issue. We have to reduce property taxes in Illinois. There's over 3 million households who pay property taxes in our state, and we're the second highest in the country after New Jersey in property taxes. So we have to get cuts. And the best way to do it is to have a 3% surcharge only on millionaire income in Illinois. That's what the referendum says. So it's not on people who are making, modest amounts of money at all. It's only on the high income millionaires in our state, and according to the statistics, there are 77,323 millionaires in Illinois. They wouldn't pay any higher tax in their first million, but they would pay a 3% surcharge on the money they declare in their income tax.
Well, that's how I'm not one of them, but you might be one of the millionaires.
No, I am not.
But out of curiosity, that 3%, is it applied only to the portion over $1 million, which means if somebody makes $1,100,000, they're only paying the 3% on the 100?
That's right. That's exactly right. So it's only after you make $1 million, and we're happy that people are blessed by having an annual income of over $1 million. But we need to do something to reduce property taxes in our state, and we need sufficient funding to really give property tax rebates to everyday people who are really suffering back-breaking property taxes, whether you live in the city, the suburbs, or downstate. Well,
that's part of my follow-up with you, because when we talk about this property tax assistance, if the money comes in, is it going into a general property tax coffer, and that hopefully gets into the public schools and safety and fire and police and all of that? Or is it literally something that people will apply and say, I want some of my tax money back? How would it operate in your view? You don't even need to apply.
There was a law passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor a few years ago called the Property Tax Relief Fund, a trust fund in the state treasury. I used to be state treasurer before I was governor.
You were everything in this state.
Well, okay, but it was a dedicated fund to give property tax rebates annually, every year, to the homeowners of our state. We have something called the homestead exemption, and you can declare on that every year if you're a homeowner. Well, if you get a homestead exemption, you would get a property tax rebate every year that the state government would assign and give to you directly, annually. You don't have to apply for it. And it's a very good way to deliver efficiently property tax relief that's long overdue. We want to have people own homes and keep homes. We don't want to drive them out of their homes by unfair property taxes. They're not based on ability to pay. And long ago, when I first got elected to something, was the Board of Property Tax Appeals. I was a commissioner, and I heard appeals from 150,000 taxpayers in the course of my 4-year term. And you would see over and over again, good people, hardworking people, just couldn't handle the property tax burden and needed relief.
What would you say to a millionaire who says, look, okay, I understand, yes, I'm blessed to make a lot of money, I'll pay this tax, but the thing is, people should only buy homes where they can afford the taxes in the first place. If we're having to give a rebate, maybe they shouldn't have bought that home in the first place.
Well, that's not how it works. When you get that letter in the mail, it's like a punch in the nose, because a lot of times with higher assessments, it's completely unanticipated by the taxpayer that these property tax levies and rates have gone so high. Whether you live in the south suburbs of Chicago, which has really had a very difficult time with super high property taxes this past year, we have to give relief to everybody, and that's what this amendment does. By voting yes, people are really giving a signal to the legislature, the governor, everybody, that we need to do something about property tax relief. This can be done, and it really follows a principle as old as the Bible. Taxes should be based on ability to pay. And if you have over $1 million annually in income, you're going to pay a little bit more, a surcharge, You mentioned that they passed this in Massachusetts 2 years ago by referendum. We can do the same thing in Illinois.
But by the way, there's lots of follow-up here, but one piece, if it doesn't pass, would you say, well, the legislature needs to act anyway, or would you say the people have spoken, it's dead?
Well, when I was governor, I signed bills for property tax reform and relief. I advocated that when I was lieutenant governor and state treasurer, and before that, the Board of Tax Appeals. But that has been insufficient. The only way to really give relief to people is a check, a property tax
So you would say
rebate.
if it doesn't pass, you should still think the legislature should act. I ask because, as you know, Pritzker's graduated income tax, an effort to tax home sales over $1 million. Those have all failed. Illinoisans aren't up for this stuff.
This is a little different. This is a targeted property tax relief measure. It only focuses on raising taxes about people who make over $1 million a year in income, and it focuses all the relief on property tax relief. The referendum a few years ago didn't do that, and when I was governor, I did propose a 3% surcharge on millionaire income, and I really feel that this is the fairest way to get the revenue necessary to roll back property taxes on people who live from paycheck to paycheck.
We're just about out of time, but you're all about referendums. Very quickly, with regard to a general budget question, which is the city wants money from the state. They're being a little resistant about that. COVID funds are running out. We're looking at cuts. Is there a fix? What would you advise budget teams?
When I was governor, I cut the budget by about $5 or $6 billion. Nobody had ever done that, but we were in a tough time. We had the Great Recession. Blagojevich got himself impeached and convicted. I had to become governor overnight. The budget was a mess, and so we really had to make economies. And I would say to the city government, to all governments, they have to tighten the belt all the time, every year. But we also have to think of taxpayers. How do we help them who are living from check to check, and they need to support their families and pay their bills, including their property tax.
All right, former Governor Pat Quinn, who does not know the word retirement. Thanks for being with me today. We'll see how it all comes. We'll talk to you afterwards. Up next on WGN-TV Political Report, presidential campaign trail brings Donald Trump to Chicago this week. More on why he's coming to town when we come back.